Well, Bitcoin has yet again made a new all-time high. It's somewhere around 56,000 now. I don't know where exactly. But the big headline is that Bitcoin now has $1 trillion market cap. And while instinctively I do want to root for the Bitcoin folks, I think that the people who are the true believers in Bitcoin, you know, their heart is in the right place. I think that they hate the Fed and they hate our financial system. And they see Bitcoin as a way of subverting that. However, while I do like, cryptocurrency in general, or I shouldn't say in general because I don't like cryptocurrencies in general, I like the concept. I like it, in principle. I even like the principles behind Bitcoin, the idea that that there is a fixed supply and that eventually there will be no more Bitcoin. I mean, you can only mine so much and then there will be, that's it. There's a cap on Bitcoin. That's a very good thing. It was very clear that whoever Satoshi Nakamoto is, and no, I don't think it was Elon Musk, there's someone who I think was a fan of Mises, because if you read Mises' theory of money and credit, it's pretty clear that the way to have a stable financial system and thus a stable and productive economy that is fair, to where you're not being exploited by bankers or by other financial whiz kids, is if there is a fixed supply of money. And I won't get into the details behind that. But needless to say, it's the intellectual pedigree of Bitcoin and the movement is clear, and they share, I would say, the same intellectual foundation that I myself operate under. But with that said, I'm very nervous for all the people who have their money in Bitcoin. Yes, Bitcoin obviously has gone up exponentially so many times over the past decade. I have watched it go up, and while I'm not the staunchest critic, I'm not one of these people who ever jumped on board the bandwagon. I've never bought Bitcoin, and I still don't think it is a good investment thus far. And so before clicking off of this video, if you've come to this as a big Bitcoin fanboy, I would ask that you at least hear me out, because I think that my intellectual bona fides, or at least I guess my ideological commitment is not really in question here. I'm someone who wants to believe, trust me. But hear me out when I caution you that the price of Bitcoin going up doesn't mean that you're necessarily winning, or that the Bitcoin thing in particular, even though crypto's in principle, it's a great idea and it might turn into something really great. I think that the technology has tremendous potential. I still don't think that this is the big one. And the reason for that is that something that I'm sure Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever he may be, understands, and that is the Misesian definition of money. Money is essentially the most liquid commodity in an economy. It is the preeminent medium of exchange. It is something that you can exchange for literally any good. And Bitcoin is far from being the the most widely accepted medium of exchange. In fact, it is not a medium of exchange at all. The only thing really that you can exchange Bitcoin for is US dollars, which essentially makes Bitcoin no different than any other exchange traded asset. Yes, there are some small places like, I'm sure in New Hampshire you have a lot of libertarian ideologues who might own, small stores, or maybe they're contractors or something, who accept Bitcoin as payment. And yes, you have services like BitPay, which allow you to buy some things online. But even BitPay, the way it works is that, you essentially give BitPay your Bitcoin, and then BitPay sells your Bitcoin and gives cash to whoever the vendor is that you're dealing with. And so as of right now, Bitcoin is not being used as money. And so its value is not going up because it's gaining use. It is not money. It's not replacing the dollar. It's not doing any of that. And that's what the purpose of Bitcoin is. The only reason why Bitcoin is going up in price is because of pure speculation. Plain and simple. And so the price of Bitcoin going up is in no way proof that anyone who's betting on Bitcoin, taking things over financially, which again I would love to see it, but that's not happened yet. Bitcoin has made no progress. All that's happening is that people are bidding up the price of the scarce supply of Bitcoin, which is a good thing. I'm happy that it's scarce, but no one is using it as money. The only value in holding Bitcoin is that somebody else is just going to give you money for it because, really no reason. Do you think that any of these institutional banks, like J.P. Morgan or whoever, or was it J.P. Morgan? No, they might actually be bearish on Bitcoin. But anyway, whatever these institutional investors that you hear so much about for the Bitcoin people, do you think they're buying Bitcoin to use it as money? No, they're speculating on it. They're using it as a speculative asset like any other. Bitcoin is not going up in value for the reasons that its proponents, or its longtime proponents, told me it was going to go up. And so when I look at that, all I see is that, the price of Bitcoin then has no floor in it, because there's no real use value to it, other than what you can sell it to somebody else for in terms of US dollars. All Bitcoin gets you right now are US dollars. You can't get anything else with it. What that means is that if all of a sudden people decide, you know what, I think I'd rather have my US dollars than Bitcoin, then your Bitcoin all of a sudden plummets in value. And it's not like you could then take that Bitcoin and go and buy a car and say, okay, well, I can't get, so I can only get, let's say $30,000 for my Bitcoin now instead of $56,000, but at least I can still go buy a car. Well, no. Or I can go buy, a million pizzas with one Bitcoin or something like that. No, you can't buy anything with Bitcoin other than US dollars. You then can take those US dollars and buy other things. But Bitcoin's value is it's very narrow in scope. You can't do anything with Bitcoin that you're holding on to. It's not like, let's say, other things that you can, sort of buy with dollars that you really can't do much else, that you can't exchange things for. Like, let's say, canned corn. If you buy a case of canned corn and then the next day, you try and sell that canned corn thinking that, oh, well, the value's going to go up, and so you buy canned corn to speculate. You sell it later, and then all of a sudden the price goes down, and you go, gee, now I'm stuck with all this canned corn, and I'm going to lose money if I sell it. Well, at least you can eat the corn. You can't eat Bitcoin. And, obviously, everybody understands that. So I really am struggling to understand sort of the long thesis for Bitcoin at this point, other than saying that, well, more institutions will keep buying it, and so, the price will keep going up. Well, if you're, to me, that's not very convincing. That's not a reason to buy something. I'm not going to buy into an asset just because you're saying, well, other people are buying it. That's just the bandwagoning effect, because then all of a sudden what happens when other people aren't buying it, with their dollars? I'm not here to hawk gold, but there's a reason why the price of gold is so much more stable than the price of Bitcoin, even though they're both, marketed as alternatives to the US dollar, that when the dollar crashes, we're going to go and adopt either Bitcoin or gold. That's how the proponents of each, hawk whatever their preferred asset of choice is. But, the reason why you see so much more volatility in Bitcoin than in gold is because, gold actually has uses outside of, just speculating on it, saying, well, maybe it'll be used as money one day. And, the same goes for lots of other things, for copper or silver or any of these other commodities that people like to buy. There's more value to it than just the speculation of others. They have non-monetary value, if that makes sense. And so in that respect, Bitcoin has a bit more, it has something in common with fiat currencies, even though I would not say that Bitcoin is a fiat currency. I used to have a professor who made that case, and I did not agree with it, because to me, the definition of the word fiat, coming from Italian or Latin or whatever, has to do with the state. It's about the state. The state makes paper money by fiat. And there is no, aggressive police force forcing us to use Bitcoin. So it's not a fiat money by any stretch. But it's not money. What it shares in common with fiat currencies is the worst trait of these fiat currencies, and that is that if you just, look at, a dollar, what is it at the end of the day? It's a piece of paper. Now, that piece of paper you can use to exchange for other goods because, there's this big government telling us that that's what we use to exchange goods. It used to be people used gold and silver coins, and then all of a sudden the Fed came along and said, no, we're going to use these Federal Reserve notes, and you're going to like it, and they rounded up everyone's, metals, and that was the end of it. But, if the U.S. government disappeared tomorrow off the face of the earth, what would those Federal Reserve notes be worth? They'd be worth Zippo. They'd be Zimbabwe dollars. And so the value of Bitcoin then is even less secure, because what's holding up the value of Bitcoin right now? Well, it's just pure speculation. Bitcoin has value because people think that the price of Bitcoin is going to go up. That's it. It's not because people think that Bitcoin is going to be used as money. It's not because Bitcoin is money. It's just that people think the price is going to go up. And so if you speculate in Bitcoin, that's fine. Think of it like gambling. But it's more of a gamble than even the stock market. And the stock market isn't, because the stock market at least is rigged to make sure it goes up. Bitcoin, if anything, it's rigged. If it's going to be rigged, it's going to be rigged to the downside. So, just be careful. And, as far as I can tell, there's nothing to gloat about other than, you had good luck or you had good timing. That there was an art to it, but there's no long thesis being confirmed here, other than, I guess, the guys who were just cynical and got into the Bitcoin market because they said, well, institutions are going to jump in, so I want to front run them. The thesis of those guys, I think, you can argue, okay, well, that long thesis has been confirmed. But if you're not one of those guys, if you're buying Bitcoin, you think that it's going up because it's gaining adoption, because, Bitcoin is winning, I would ask you humbly to take a step back and reevaluate things and just make sure that you know what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, when Bitcoin crashes 90% again, like it regularly does, I think that the people who are going to be hurt the most probably are going to be these small fry. It's not going to be your institutional folks. So with that said, I guess I'll end things here for today.